Hey, this is Dino, and today I want to talk to you about generating API proxies for Apigee from templates. I've got a source code repo that you're going to want to explore if this is a topic that interests you. But I'm going to talk through the use of this thing today. So what good is this thing? Well, one good application of the API proxy generator tool that I'm going to show you is exposing a curated set of queries against BigQuery via an API proxy. Now, as you may know, BigQuery is really good for data analysis. You can send BigQuery structured query language and it'll return data back. For example, I've got a BigQuery. Let me just take you into Cloud Console and show you my BigQuery. There are a number of public data sets available in BigQuery, just to sort of let you get to know how it works and play around with things. I'll look at just one of them here. Here's the COVID-19 deaths database from Johns Hopkins University. And I'm able to query that and get data back that tells me for the US, the deaths for each week starting since the beginning of the COVID pandemic. So just standard query stuff. In addition to that, BigQuery's got a REST API, so I can invoke that same query from a client that can send a REST request. And it looks something like this. So if I want to query it, this is the query that I'm sending in. It requires a post to this endpoint. This would be the project. This is the data set that I'm querying, and it requires me to send in and accept JSON. That's not going to work because it's missing a required authentication credential. But if I put in an authorization header with a bearer token that I've previously acquired, my own token, I'm going to get data back, and that's lots and lots of data. So the point is that BigQuery has a REST interface that's available there. But just because BigQuery is queryable via HTTP does not mean that the owner of the data set in your BigQuery data store wants to expose the full BigQuery capability to all clients. Maybe they want to expose some subsets of that data, or maybe a curated set of queries, not everything. Maybe they want to do other things like rate limit the queries that go into BigQuery, or mediate security, so that rather than giving every client a token that's good for BigQuery, you can give a more limited token that an API proxy could evaluate and validate before passing the query into BigQuery. That's what an API proxy facade is all about. That's things that it's good at. This tool that I'm going to show you is something that can generate the API proxy facade based on a small amount of data that you can provide for your that should be exposed by that API proxy facade. So the idea of using templates in general is kind of well known as kind of a standard thing. Most of your prior experience with a template might involve just taking a string and replacing a string like this and replacing some placeholder with actual data. So this might be the template. This might be what the configuration data looks like. We've got this reference to a base path with the double curlies, with a strange looking double curlies thing. the output of applying this template with this data might give us this. Okay, so really simple. Static placeholder replacement, like replacing a base path with a specific value, is handy, but it's kind of limited. You can't do loops, conditions, and so on. Most modern templating engines have more dynamic capabilities, including Lodash, which is what the tool that I'm going to show you today is built on. It's just a Node.js module. What Lodash allows me to do is, in the tool, iterate through the list of flows that are listed here and produce a new conditional flow for each one of those, and also extract data from the URL to get the parameters that will then be used in the queries. So I can refer to parameters extracted from the path in this in the API proxy, and that'll all happen automatically. So Lodash is a really nice templating engine for Node.js, and it starts to get pretty interesting, the kinds of things that I can do. So let me show you what a template is. Really, a template is just a proxy, an exploded API proxy bundle with some references to data within them. And so you can see this is the actual template for the proxy endpoint, where we specify the base path. And then here you'll see some iteration for each flow in the data. This template will emit a conditional flow. And this all looks maybe like a little bit of magic, but the interesting part is you only have to do this once, and then generating new proxies is really easy, just pushing a button. And you can generate new proxies that can be deployed instantly. So that's what the proxy endpoint looks like. The idea behind applying the template is we're not going to apply this string replacement just to the proxy endpoint file, but to the entire set of files inside the API proxy bundle. And so anything that is in the API proxy bundle could be templatized, could be turned into something that's dynamically determined at the time you run the template tool. So I've got, in the repository that I'm showing you, I've got a number of different templates, and I've also got a number of different examples of configuration data. And the key is you can map any of the templates to any of the configuration data. One of them here queries the BigQuery public dataset for airline flights. There's another public dataset that queries that stores open images, and then the third one is COVID-19 data. This one queries two distinct public datasets in one API proxy. So any of these configurations, these themselves are not, they're not API proxies. They're just configuration data. So this one queries the John Hopkins data that's in the BigQuery public dataset, and this one queries the New York Times, the data that New York Times has collated on COVID-19 for the U.S. states. It's just an example of a single API proxy fronting different data sets in BigQuery. Another thing you can do with this generator idea. So that's all this configuration data is, and then the templates are just proxies with some templating code in there. You can create your own, obviously. But the key point is this tool is going to map one of these, one of the available data sets or configuration data files to one of the available proxy templates. And I've got one that's just a simple facade, one that does rate limiting, one that performs API key verification before invoking the query, and then the last one combines that. It does verification of the API key and rate limiting. So it's kind of a combination of number 2 and number 3. Of course, you can elaborate on this idea and create your own templates as well to fit your requirements. Okay, so how do we use it? First thing you got to do is clone this repo, and then you also need to create a service account. For these examples, you'll need a service account which has the role BigQuery job user, and I've already done that. Let's see, we'll go into identity and access management, look at service accounts, and I've got one here that that I've already created, and it has the right role. It has the role that allows it to perform queries against BigQuery, and that's what I'm going to be using. Now, I do not need a service account key. I just need the service account itself. When we deploy the API proxy into Apigee X, the API proxy itself will act as this service account when it sends queries to BigQuery. So that's all set up. So I've got that, done that first step. You can, when you're doing this yourself, you can either use the GCP Cloud Console UI to do that, or the gcloud command tool to create a service account. You don't need the key. Then the next thing we want to do is generate a proxy. And we're going to do that via a terminal window. So let's see how that would look. So the first thing I want to do is cd into the tools directory. This is the result of my cloned repo. I have npm on my machine, so I'm going to install the prerequisites that are defined in that package file. Now I'll be able to run this, but before I do that, I need to export the project ID like this, and then set the some other variables, including getting a token. So let me try this. Let's see. Export. For me, this is yours is going to be different, obviously. So that's my my service account. What else do I need? I'll probably need a new token, so I'll grab that. Now the first thing I want to show you is generating a proxy only from just from the data and template, and not deploying that to the Apigee organization. So what does that look like? I'm going to specify the tool, the environment. The reason I need to specify the environment is because in some cases the template refers to this environment name. So we're going to want that. I specified the source template. It'll just be the rate limiting proxy. And then the data for the COVID data store. So I'll run that, and it's really quite quick. It's just doing string replacement, and it says we've generated this thing. So let's have a look at that. I'll open up my editor. And as you can see, that sure looks like an exploded or a zipped up API proxy bundle. This is going to be deployable. So we just generated that. This is what the endpoint looks like. The base path is COVID-19. We've got some things in the pre-flow. something in the post flow, and then a number of different flows for each item in the configuration. You can see this is taking parameterized paths and applying them to the different queries that you saw in that configuration file. That's the proxy endpoint. If I look at the target, you can see it's pointing just at BigQuery, and it's using this stanza that says, hey, use the service account that I pass in when I deploy the proxy. Use that service account when you invoke this target. So really nice. You'll see I don't specify the service account here. I don't specify it in the proxy definition. I specify it at the time I deploy the proxy. That's a new feature in Apigee X. Really handy for when you're invoking targets that are inside Google Cloud. And then it does a bunch of other things. The point, though, is that all the generation of this is more or less mechanized. So, and it's all in that zip file, which can be deployed. Now, if I want to deploy it, I can just change this command a little bit. And in addition, I can specify the organization, which is same as my project ID. The environment I've already specified. And then I'll need to specify the service account. Which I can do with service account. This is just an argument to this tool itself. And I'll just specify that shell variable that I set previously. Let's see, what else do I need? I'm also going to need to say this is for Apigee X for authentication, and the token is that token that I received, that I set just a minute ago. So that all looks good, except I do not want to say generate only. So we're going to remove that. Keep the source the same, keep the data the same. And now it's zipped up that thing. It's the same zip. And then deployed it. And that proxy is now running in Apigee. So what does that get us? At that point, now I have a facade that I can invoke from curl or from some other client that would allow me to get the data from those BigQuery endpoints just by sending in a simpler query like that. So this is what it might look like if I send in my curl, and it's, at this point it's connecting to BigQuery. It does take some time to process, but there's all the data coming back for US DES. Okay, and if I want another country, I can try, for example, France, and I'll get data coming back for France. So what does this look like in Apigee? Let's refresh my proxies list. We should see that COVID proxy. This is what was generated and that I deployed. It is running with this service account. Let's debug it and see what it's actually doing. So we'll start a debug session, and we'll flip back over to my terminal, and we'll run again. We'll run the France query and the US query. Run a couple of those. Flip back to the debug panel, and you can see it's performing a quota check, it's extracting path parameters, it's assembling the prepared query from the extracted parameters, assigning that, and then invoking BigQuery with that query. And then on the follow-on, it does some manipulation of the payload, it removes the schema and so on. And I've got some other things that are going on with this particular proxy does with the job and so on. But the final result is that payload gets sent back to the client. That's the way we've exposed a curated query on BigQuery via Apigee. So really nice way to generate API proxies from within a tool. Circling back to the repo, there's a number of different, as I said, there's a number of different examples of configuration data. One that points at COVID data. This one points at flights. That is airline flights from some old airline data. This is just example data in public data sets that Google makes available in BigQuery just for your own study and test. And then there's another one with open images, very simple. It just exposes one query based on querying public images based on a keyword in the title. So it works the same way. Rather than allowing just anybody to query anything in this data set, we're exposing a limited, curated, parameterized query against that data set. And any one of those configurations can be applied to any of these templates to create a custom API proxy very, very rapidly. So really nice. I hope this has all been pretty clear. The proxy generator approach can be really nice if you're introducing into your environment a governed API program where you've got requirement to be very consistent about how you create your API proxies, the shape of them, what they connect into, and the kinds of operations they perform. So that's one nice reason that you might want to have a look at using a templatized generation of API proxies. The other is if the people who write API proxies are different than the people who publish or want to expose APIs for data sources. The people that know Apigee may know about proxy endpoints and flows and context variables and all of that, but the people that want to just expose data sets, maybe they don't want to know that. They don't want to understand that. They know SQL, they know their data sets, they know their customers, but they don't want to know about all these other things. A proxy template can allow the data publisher team to very simply mechanize the way that they expose APIs on their data sets. Without requiring those people to train up on Apigee and understand exactly how Apigee works. All right, so that's the API proxy generator. I hope this has been interesting. Let me know if you've got questions on this in the comments below. And in the description of this, I have the links for the repo. All right, till next time, keep it digital.